Imagine waking up one morning to discover that your country's skies, your sovereignty, your defenses, your very freedom, are not protected by your military, not protected by your allies, but controlled from a foreign office thousands of miles away. Controlled by people who don't ask but threaten, who don't negotiate but command, who don't respect you but remind you every second that they can pull the plug on your security whenever they want. This is the terrifying truth Canada stumbled into, and the truth the world was never supposed to hear. It began quietly, almost innocently. Canada was simply looking to replace aging fighter jets. Nothing dramatic, nothing political, nothing controversial. Until the United States stormed in like a mafia boss, pounding on the table, demanding loyalty. Buy our jets or forget your trade deals. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a friendly reminder between allies. It was blackmail. Clean, simple, unapologetic blackmail. And behind that threat, something darker was hiding. Because once Canada began looking beyond the loud American pitch, the government stumbled onto something the Pentagon desperately wanted to keep buried: the shocking weaknesses inside their most expensive fighter jet. Meanwhile, in the calm, snowy north of Europe, Sweden was preparing an offer the world would soon call one of the most disruptive moves in modern defense history. A fleet of high-performance Gripen fighters, battle-tested, cost-efficient, NATO-compatible, and shockingly cheap to maintain. A jet so efficient that American senators were quietly wondering if their own trillion-dollar F-35 program would survive the comparison. And this is where the curiosity turns into fear. Because once Canada looked at the numbers, the maintenance logs, the readiness rates, the upgrade controls, and the multi-billion-dollar repair delays, they realized the F-35 wasn't the perfect machine they were promised. In fact, too many of them simply didn't fly. They sat grounded, waiting for expensive repairs, governed by software Canada didn't own, controlled by a country that had just openly threatened them. So picture the scene. Canadian officials sitting at their desks, reading classified reports that reveal the jet they were pressured to buy is years behind schedule, billions over budget, and trapped behind maintenance chains that the US alone controls. A fighter Canada may pay for, but never truly own. A fighter that could be locked, limited, or delayed at the press of a foreign button. Meanwhile, the Gripen, which Sweden calmly brought to the table, was flying seamlessly with NATO aircraft in Europe. It was operating in Arctic conditions, communicating flawlessly with American systems, and outperforming expectations in joint exercises, right beside US forces who pretended compatibility wasn't possible. And then, just as Canada was quietly evaluating Sweden's offer, US officials began shouting again. "You can't run two fleets," they insisted. "It's impossible." Except Canada had already done it. Except multiple NATO allies were already doing it. Except experts were already proving it false. So why was Washington terrified of Canada buying Gripens? Because if Canada, America's closest defense partner, started flying a Swedish jet that was cheaper, faster to maintain, easier to operate, and fully sovereign, the world would finally see the truth. The F-35 program wasn't the unstoppable masterpiece America marketed. It was fragile, expensive, over-engineered, and dangerously dependent on US permission. Meanwhile, the Gripen represented something America did not want other countries to have: freedom from dependence. But the deeper Canada dug, the more disturbing the picture became. Experts revealed that even if Canada bought F-35s outright, the US would still legally own the software, the upgrades, the critical parts. Even the ability to operate them long-term depended on American approval. Canada could pay billions, build hangars, train pilots, commit their national security to these jets, and still be locked out of their own aircraft under the wrong political climate. One angry president could freeze upgrades overnight. One trade dispute could ground an entire fleet. One diplomatic disagreement could cripple Canadian defense. And the question echoed across the halls of Ottawa, is this what a sovereign nation should accept? Then came the twist no one expected. A retired Canadian general who once championed the F-35 came forward and admitted the deal no longer made sense. He warned of American control, warned of software dependency, warned of political leverage. Meanwhile, another retired general, who had spent years supporting the American jet, was suddenly revealed to be a paid consultant for the U.S. manufacturer. His warnings against the Gripen weren't protection, they were sales pitches. And once again, Canada found itself caught between truth and pressure, between facts and fear, between independence and foreign control. But Sweden didn't intimidate. They didn't threaten. They simply offered something Canada hadn't seen in decades: a sovereign deal. Build the jets in Canada, hire Canadian workers, establish factories on Canadian soil, create up to 10,000 Canadian jobs, allow Canada to own its own jets, control its own software, and customize its own fleet without asking permission from any foreign government ever again. It was a bombshell offer, one that terrified the Pentagon even more than losing a sale. Because if Canada accepted, the Gripen would become a symbol of a new defense era, one where smaller nations break free from American dominance, one where the world discovers a jet that doesn't need billion-dollar repair hubs, doesn't require months-long maintenance cycles, and doesn't sit grounded waiting for software parts locked behind political conditions. And the story only grew darker. Classified assessments warned Canada that American political instability made dependency extremely dangerous. Presidents changed. Policies reversed overnight. Threats escalated. Allies were punished without warning. Contracts renegotiated by force. Tariffs used as weapons. America's trustworthiness as a partner had been shaken globally. And Canada realized the terrifying possibility. What if we buy the F-35 and the next U.S. administration cuts support, raises costs, or restricts upgrades? Because history showed they already had. Meanwhile, Sweden spoke of Arctic partnerships, northern defense cooperation, joint patrols, and equal partnership, not dominance. Not threats, not political leverage, just mutual defense, mutual respect. And a jet built for exactly the type of Arctic missions Canada desperately needed. Lightweight, agile, perfect for cold climates, perfect for short runways, perfect for rapid maintenance, perfect for defending the North, where the F-35 struggled. And so Canada found itself at the crossroads of a historic decision. Down one road, the most expensive fighter project in human history, slowed by maintenance failures, buried in political tension, controlled by a foreign government, and surrounded by global uncertainty. Down the other road, a sovereign jet built for independence, praised for Arctic capability, proven in NATO missions, offered with Canadian jobs, and free from the political chains Washington hid behind patriotic speeches. But here is the part the world wasn't prepared for. The belief that America's dominance was eternal was beginning to crack. The respect that once surrounded the U.S. government in global defense was fading. Allies were questioning. Nations were choosing alternatives. And Canada, one of America's closest friends, was suddenly forced to ask a chilling question. Are we truly allies? Or are we simply expected to obey? And that's when the biggest realization hit. America wasn't afraid of losing money. They were afraid of losing control. Because once one major nation breaks free, others will follow. Once the world sees the Gripen outperform expectations, nations locked in dependency will demand alternatives. And when countries begin choosing sovereignty over pressure, the Pentagon's monopoly on global defense architecture crumbles. This is the secret the world wasn't supposed to hear. Canada isn't just choosing a jet. Canada is choosing what kind of future it wants. A future where it kneels, or a future where it stands. A future where its skies belong to another country, or a future where its skies are sovereign. A future where foreign politics can ground its air force. Or a future where Canadian pilots fly without permission from anyone on Earth. And as this decision approaches, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon a nation can possess isn't the fastest jet, the loudest jet, or the most expensive jet. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon is independence. If you want to follow more shocking, dramatic, and deeply revealing stories like this, stories that cut through propaganda and expose what really happens behind global defense deals, make sure you join us at Falcon Wings. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and stay with us as we uncover the stories others are afraid to tell. As Canada stands at the crossroads between the expensive, controlled F-35 and the sovereign, independent Gripen, what would you choose for the future of our skies? Would you prioritize independence over convenience, even if it means challenging decades of American control?